Let us pray. Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for allowing us to have this meeting. We thank you for everyone that's come here tonight. Lord, we just pray that you just bless us tonight, Lord, and everything that we do, everything we say, is to lift up and honor you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. We will now call the Swain County Commissioners' regular meeting to order. We will go into our Pledge of Allegiance.
Face the colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We need to make an adjustment to the agenda. That would be the broadband presentation. Do I have any suggestions as where we put this?
I'd like to see if we could put it up close to the top to keep them having to sit through the whole meeting if we can.
What? They don't want to sit through the whole meeting? What is it?
They might.
Okay, so you want it up after the budget amendment? Would that be?
That would be fine,
Okay.
if that's okay with everybody.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
is this just a presentation? There's nothing we need to,
I don't say, I'm sorry.
it's just a presentation.
This is just a presentation of what's up, bringing us up to date, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Okay, I'm going to assume by acclamation that that's okay. If anybody has any objections, please raise your hand. Okay, let's move on down the agenda to number 3, the administrative reports, budget amendment, tax collector's report, and the budget amendment following. Since no one's walking up to the mic, I'm assuming it's you.
I
So.
guess it's me. This is for the month of August. This is tax collector's report. Total receivables $6,856,653.72. Total receipt for the month is $994,494.46. Collected year to date $1,771,495.34. Total collected for the month $1,013,125.60. So far we've collected 26.68%. And the waste fee collected for the month is $169,816.91. Total collected year to date $307,248.47. Motor vehicles collected, total collected for the year so far $1,188,719.99, and year to date is $2,140,042.32. Motor vehicles for the month $44,306.29, and year to date is $84,885.26.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Hearing none, I will accept the motion to accept the report as given.
I'll make a motion to accept the report as given.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to accept the report as given regarding the, which one was that? Oh, the tax collector's report. Any questions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Carried unanimously with those present. Okay, budget amendment.
I'll put a new budget amendment on your table before the meeting. Also, I need to add one additional item to that, which I got the figure about the cam bracelets. So y'all had heard a presentation, I think, from them at the previous meeting, or actually a couple meetings ago, talking about the need for the cam bracelets, and that they had a grant through the, I would think it's the Highway Safety Committee. Is that pretty much right? Okay, all right. And so that total expenditure is $70,000, but that will be covered by a grant of $70,000 from the Governor's Highway Safety. So I'm adding that to the budget amendment. So it'll be a total budget amendment of $1,370,000. The first one is a new ambulance, $300,000, and that's coming from finance and proceeds. Second one is the ARPA funding bonuses that was approved last year, $700,000, and that comes from the ARPA fund balance. Under administration, which is the new part of this budget amendment, $300,000, and this is the track expenditures at the high school, and that's coming from the Public School Capital Reserve Fund for a total amendment of $1,370,000.
Okay. Can we back up just a second? I don't know when we as a board voted on the cam bracelets.
I just thought I'd make this part, and they're here to explain more about it if you have other questions. I just wanted to make it a part of the budget because it is in and out money as
Okay.
far as the physical part of it.
Okay, good, thank you. Any questions on this?
Yes, with the cam bracelet, we do have a grant for this time, but what about the next time?
Please come to the mic, yes, thank you.
This is unprecedented that we would do this grant over 7 counties for our whole district. So if they award this grant, we'll have a year, and at the end of that year, between the district attorney's office and the cam bracelet provider, you will have some really hard data about recidivism, success rates, and those kind of things. And at the end of that year, traditionally, if you've been really successful, especially in a life-saving endeavor like this one, they may or may not renew it, but you may decide, or each other county individually may decide to stand on their own. We estimated that each county, there's 7 counties, and there would be $10,000 for each county. So at the end of the year, if we're able to provide that hard data, that good information, my expectation would be that I would come, along with these people, to a county commissioners board in each county and say, we have hard data now. Swain County was the flagship. They accepted the grant. We have success. We have 90% success rate, and I believe that you might see that. And that each county then would individually take on the coming expenses. If not, there is possibility, certainly, that the Governor's Highway Safety Program would look at that hard data and say, this is such a successful endeavor that we're going to continue with it. And so there's going to be other technology coming. You know, they talk about now all kinds of things. You're going to see maybe in some point in the future roadside drug testing, those kind of things. So it's all new. The cam bracelet's not really new. It's been around for a while. And the law that allows the magistrate to...
Excuse me, please,
Yes.
excuse me.
Yes.
I think the question was, we may get a grant for this year, but in the following years, it would be a county expense.
It might. I don't think that we can rule it out that the Governor's Highway Safety Program might renew the grant. That's not for me to predict, but I think when you see the success and the data, they'll either do it or we may come back and ask you to do it.
Thank you. I do have another question too, if
Yes.
I may. And I'd asked it before about this is for pending charges, correct? This is for people with pending charges is what we were
There's a
told.
list that will be actually decided. When we met the other day, Jason Arnold from the DA's office and I met with the people from Governor's Highway Safety Program, and there's a list that the DA would like to have some flexibility. If they get, for instance, a driving while impaired ticket while they have a case pending in the courts, that would certainly be a time you'd want him. If they get one and they have a conviction within the preceding 7 years, a recent conviction, that might be a time. They were talking about if a person is charged with felony death by vehicle, that means they've gone out driving impaired and they kill somebody, they can actually be bonded out. If the offending substance was alcohol, the district attorney's office might like to say, we would like to put a cam bracelet on that person pre-trial. They've already killed somebody or they've already seriously injured somebody. So they will have a little bit of flexibility, and that's their decision, or the magistrate's decision to when to use it. And that, all of that list has to be looked at by the chief district court judge. And so those circumstances, they're not going to go out putting them on everybody coming and going, but there will be those dangerous offenders is who the target population will be. For instance, in another county, one that you would be serving with this, the other night a 31-year-old was taken in driving with a .33 blood alcohol and had a pending DWI. So that would certainly be a person that you would want to prevent from getting another one or being on the highway and being drinking again.
And that's part of my question. So
Yes.
when they're arrested like that, so they come get their second one, then that's when the judge can make them do it? When can
The
they
magistrate.
be made do it? The magistrate's
Actually,
decision, or is
when
it
that person
volunteer?
has a charge pending in the court that hasn't even been heard yet, and they go out and do it again and get the second charge, the cam bracelet would be put on as a condition of pretrial release. So they actually would have to have that cam bracelet put on at the magistrate's office. And we have one county in western North Carolina that is they're establishing the very first ever west of Asheville sobriety court, and cam bracelets are a routine part of sobriety courts, which that will be coming your way at some point in the future too.
Back to my question the last time.
Mm-hmm.
So when they drink some alcohol, is the sheriff going to go and stop them from getting in their car and driving?
The information, when that thing triggers, it goes to the provider, and if they're on probation, the probation officers can have that information immediately sent to them. In one case some years ago in Haywood County where it was a felony death by vehicle case, the district attorney, the prosecutor that was handling that case, asked that he be notified specifically. So that's set up, who will be notified is set up at the magistrate's office. And if it is I'm assuming, felony death by vehicle case, the prosecutor or the district attorney's office would want to know that. But in this specific program, Jason Arnold, who you met the other night, will be the supervising person from the district attorney's office who will review all of the ones that are being paid for from this grant. He'll know always what's going on with them.
But that's, my question is, what are these bracelets going to stop people? You've presented that these would stop people from drinking and driving, is what I'm being presented.
If the bracelet, if they've what's called violating it, if it senses alcohol and they violated their conditions of pretrial release, then the district attorney has the option of bringing them in and revoking their bond or asking the judge to revoke their bond.
So if they bond out, then they're not allowed to drink at all? They can't be at their house drinking? Is it going to stop them from drinking at all?
Yes,
What is
yes, it is a, yeah.
Excuse me, just a
Yes.
moment.
I
Sir, would you
understand.
mind stepping up here to the mic, please?
I understand it's monitoring, but the way that it was presented to us was it was more like a volunteer thing, that it made it look good on them to have it on the bracelet on, not necessarily, it's not necessarily going to prevent drinking and driving, and it's not necessarily going to prevent, in fact, the the story that the sheriff gave me during this presentation really bothered me the most, because I don't think that the bracelet's gonna stop them if that one incident, the child in the vehicle didn't stop him. You see what I'm saying? If he don't care enough about his child to not drink and drive, I don't think he's gonna care about the bracelet.
If his condition of release, if his condition of release is not to having alcohol in his system, then that bond can be revoked and he can be picked up and put in jail until he bonds out again or until he goes to court.
Right, so he could bond out again.
I think unless it's a murder charge, there has to be a bond set for
Right.
everything.
And that's what my question was with was it the assistant DA or whoever was here the last time?
Jason Arnold.
And when he said that yes, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, that's part of my issue with it, on pending things.
Well,
Because you
everybody's
still
innocent
have your
until proven
chance to
guilty.
court. And that's one of my issues. You still have your chance to be proven innocent or not before you get a bracelet put on your leg. That's one of my issues with it.
Understanding. So, it's a condition of pretrial release. So if you have a pending charge and you commit the same offense again before the first case goes to court, it's actually, I don't know, do you want to speak to that, Jim, at all? If they have a pending charge for driving while impaired, and they get another one while that charge is pending, they violate it, what happens? Yeah, I think that might be a question for you.
You got it.
I try to follow protocol if I can. The question is that if they have one that they're out on bond on and then they get a second one, that would be an appropriate time to ask that a cam bracelet be put on them. And then if they were to, I think your question is what happens if they violate that by drinking and having the cam bracelet on? The reports would get back to the DA's office. We could make the request of the bond to be revoked and reset at a higher amount. Not necessarily, and the sheriff was right, other than meth and actually murder and manufacturing meth, those are the only two crimes in North Carolina that you're not entitled to a bond, potentially. The bond would be raised, but in essence, by wearing the cam bracelet, that's part of the conditions of wearing that is if you test positive for drinking while you've got that on, you're subject to having your bond revoked and reset at a higher amount.
Right, and what I'm saying is, I understand all that.
Okay.
But if the subject's drinking, is the sheriff gonna go stop them from driving right then? Is what I'm asking.
It would be appropriate to try to locate them if you could find that, because that would be some indication that they may be drinking and driving. It's possible to do an investigation at that point. Don't know that it's not got a GPS component to it.
They can do that, especially if there's domestic violence or anything like that associated with the drinking.
But if it was possible to figure out where they're at, that would give them a reason to at least go investigate it. But it's not a condition, if you violate a condition of your bond, the only person that can change that bond, that can say that they have violated it, is a judge. So it's not an arrestable offense to violate the bond, but it would be something that would give to the DA's office to go and ask for the bond to be revoked. It would be great to have that additional information and potentially give them the opportunity to investigate whether, if they find him, if he's drinking and driving, to do another investigation for another offense.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That answer your question.
Yes.
Any other questions, commissioners? We thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, now then, let me clarify here. The budget amendment is for $100,000? 370?
1,370,000.
1 million, whoa. Okay, do we have any other questions regarding this? Then what is your pleasure? If you want to approve the budget amendment with or without the cam bracelets for the full 1,370,000. What's your pleasure?
I make a motion, we approve that based on the, it's a grant for a year, it's costing us nothing, and see how that program goes, and then you have the option to renew or what to do then.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor
I'll
to
second.
approve, I'm sorry,
Second.
and a motion and a second on the floor to approve the budget amendment for $1,370,000. Any other questions or concerns? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of this budget amendment, please raise your right hand. Okay, 4-1. 4 voting for it and 1 voting against it. We appreciate that, Sheriff. Do we have any other, did you have another comment or question on that? Okay, all right. Moving on down to broadband.
Well, excellent. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am Julie Thorner, and I am the chairwoman of the Swain County Broadband Committee. With me are 2 of my illustrious committee members, Leonard Winchester, who is the vice chair, and Jason, who is our an at-large member. And actually, the 3 of us have all been on this committee since it started in 2017. So what I'd like to do is give you an update on what the Broadband Committee has been doing. I'm going to go pretty quickly through it. There are a lot of details in the appendix of these slides, and you're welcome to look at them at your leisure. But I want to give you an overview of what we've been doing, and then we have some key information at the end, and we have some good news, which is really exciting. Cindy, are you able to rotate that? Okay, while they're figuring that out, I'm going to go ahead and start with some of the intro pieces. So we have 9 members on our broadband committee. It was a commissioner-inspired, authorized committee back in 2017. We've been going for 5 years now. We were charged with understanding the broadband issues in Swain County and getting as much information as possible about how we can help Swain County move forward in trying to win some more deployments for our county. We started out with an extensive survey about what kinds of broadband assets we currently have in the county. You won't be surprised to know we didn't have very many, that we didn't have a great survey result of wonderful internet for our county. We have a lot of problems with this, with where we are located, with broadband providers coming in to invest in fiber to the home, and fixed wireless was not really on the radar back in 2017. So we spent our time doing a survey of all of our assets. The school was a huge part of that, and we have details. If you go back 1 slide, there you go. Under one more, there you, next slide. I don't think you have those in order. Oh, next slide, sorry. There you go. Under conclusions, you can look up what the survey results are. Well over 50% of people either didn't have internet or it wasn't good enough and they couldn't afford it. We worked hard to develop relationships with various groups, And those include the Southwestern Commission, a very important group for us right in our backyard, and the Appalachian Regional Commission. We had some grants that we worked on through the ARC. We work closely with the North Carolina Department of Infrastructure and Technology. That's Keith Conover and his group. He came to almost every one of our meetings, and we were religious about meeting every month to try to move forward for Swain County. And then Band NC, as Leonard has pointed out, is an NC state group also working to help with broadband, solve the broadband problem in these rural counties. So let's go to the next slide. And the next slide, we're going to show you that we did work on some past grants. The GREAT grant was a pilot program back in 2019. We worked very closely with Skywave. That's James Sutton's business. He has since sold it to Balsam West. And that was a fixed wireless deployment. Fixed wireless is very exciting for Swain County. And gentlemen, stop me if you already know this, but otherwise I'll just give you a little insight into what these things are. The fixed wireless is wireless that is not fiber to the home. You don't have to dig lines in the ground. You can put towers on the mountainside and beam strong signals to towers at people's homes. And then if you live in a place where you're perhaps above or near neighbors, you can get a signal and beam it to your neighbors. That's the case at my house, for example. I live up Galbraith Creek and I get a signal from Fry Mountain. It is fast broadband, 25 megabytes up, 3 megabytes down. It's actually faster than that, but it has solved a lot of problems for a number of our community members. We helped Skywave win 2 different awards, as you can see, a total of over $500,000, $662,000 in deployment funds. Skywave matched some, and then the great grants from North Carolina government provided the rest. And you can see that over 1,000 households have been served, a number of businesses, and we also, this was a key part of COVID. When COVID hit, we had various places with Skywave hotspots that we opened up to the community for free, and they could go park in the parking lot. So let's go to the next slide, and you can look at that at your leisure. It's a map that shows all the areas that were covered by those first 2 grants in 2019 to 21. Let's go to the next slide, please. In 2022, this is the exciting part. North Carolina rolled out the GREAT grant with a lot more funding, and we've heard about lots of funds coming through because of COVID, ARPA funds. We're going to talk about CAB programs, et cetera, in a little bit. The GREAT grants funding that has been rolled out gave Swain County achieved a number of applicants, which is very exciting for us. There were a number of providers who put in applications: Zito Media, Frontier, Balsam West, Cherokee Cablevision. We know that's associated with Balsam West. And then there's one called Zytel or Zytel. And the Swain County Broadband Committee worked with all of these partners, except for Zytel came to us very late. But our job is to talk with them, share information. We are agnostic about who wins. We just want someone to win who will deliver, right, for our county. So we supported their applications, shared information. The county agreed to a match. The winner was Zito Media, and we are very excited about that. Let's go to the next slide and skip to the next one for Zito. Because Zito has the ability to deploy. They have deployed successfully in Graham County. They have fiber to the home in a few areas in Bryson City, and their award was almost $4 million. They have to match over $700,000 of that. And in the back of the presentation, you'll see a list of all the regions they say they're going to go to. We are optimistic they will deploy to most of those regions. I'm going to pause and let Leonard offer a comment if you have anything to add to that, Leonard.
We had 2 big applications, the one from Frontier and the one from Zito Media. Those were 2 big applications. I was worried about the Frontier application, worried they might get it. But it was a low ball price. And in a lot of these kind of situations, you can price something so cheap that you're not going to get the job done. And I had the information from Zito on their project they started 2 years ago in Graham County. They gave me the financials, and I already had the map of where they were going, and they finished that project in budget. So that made me feel good about their numbers. And so I was glad to see Zito get it. We didn't decide who got it. The state made that decision, you know, and we didn't send in a preference or recommendation of one over the other. I'm just confiding to you now what my thoughts were at the time.
And I will share with you that Leonard is an incredible asset to the Swain Broadband Committee and Swain County because he actually understands where all of these assets are and he understands the providers. We don't have a way to bias the state, of course. He simply has background information that suggests that Zito will have a higher success rate than Frontier. We're pretty excited about that. We're going to skip through the next slides because those are maps you can look at of the other provider applicants that did not win. We do think there will be a second round of great grants, and there may be a second provider that is awarded a grant in Swain County. It cannot be duplicating any of the areas that Zito Media won, and it also cannot cover any of the RDOF areas. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The Rural Digital Opportunity Fund that were awarded previously to Charter, okay? So let's go take a look at the next one before that, please. There was a large grant that we worked on for the National Technology, Infrastructure Act, something like that. Is that right? It was a huge opportunity to put fiber to the home for the entire county. We worked very hard on it. We had a consultant help us. It was actually a very strong application. We didn't win it, we, Swain County, but in that process, we were able to get poll data of where all the polls are for Duke Energy that helps all the providers who did the great grant because they also got that information and that helps them deliver a more accurate application. I believe we have Mr. Heath Schuler to thank for also working hard for us behind the scenes to speak with Duke Energy to help us get that poll data. So that was really great. Okay, so let's go to what's happening now. And we're going to talk about the RDOF award first. Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, some of you have heard that come up. We'll go to the next slide, please. Charter Communications, also Spectrum, won the auction in about December. There's an error there under date awarded. The award happened in December of 2020, and the clock started ticking in April of 2022 when they finally got a contract confirmed. They are now on the hook by contract to roll out broadband fiber to the home to a number of areas in Swain County. If they do it, we will be thrilled. We are quite concerned that they won't do it. The penalties are not stiff enough for them to not walk away from it, and this is a difficult and expensive area. We feel that their cost per location was significantly underfunded, so we, your Swain Broadband Committee, who's been looking at this for the last 5 years, we have concerns about their ability to do it. And that's come up. We've actually tried to talk to legislators about making stricter requirements for the RDOF auction winners so that they actually deliver for our rural counties where infrastructure costs are quite a bit higher to deploy fiber. So that's the depressing piece. Let's keep going, and we're going to get to a better piece. The CAB, I feel like I'm back in the military talking with my sister. She's in the military, not me, with all these acronyms. CAB is completing access to broadband. These are more pots of money, and these are federal, correct? Leonard? Thank you. These are federal pots of money, and we are able to get another $4 million in funding for Swain County for broadband deployment, fiber to the home. The county needs to put up a match for that of $200,000. The provider has to put up a match for $400,000. It is our understanding that we will get that money if we are able to put up that match. The county puts out the RFP to providers saying, here's what we have, here are our assets, here's what we need, come in and bid on this project. The North Carolina Department of Infrastructure Technology will help us with that RFP. Your broadband committee will help write that RFP for Swain County. I'm sure, Kevin, you will be helping or looking over our shoulder as we do that. And that is going to, it has not rolled out yet, the opportunity to create that RFP, because they're waiting for subsequent rounds of the great grants. But when that hits, we're going to bring that to you, and that's going to be something we want the commissioners to think very seriously about as we try to move Swain County into the 21st century. Any questions? And Leonard, do you want to add anything to that? Thank you.
This CAB program hasn't started yet, but it will soon. We expect maybe by the first of the year. And it's, we're eligible for $4 million. To get it, county has to pay $200,000. $200,000 for $4 million is a pretty good deal, but it's probably not going to fall in line with when and how you make budgets. So what I would say to you is that this project would be worth it even if you had to borrow the money until you could put it in a later budget to take care of it. And the big things that have happened, this RDOF thing, that's a big project with Charter. They got a big area. They've got 6 years to do it or default. That area is excluded from anything we can do. We can't touch that. That's theirs. Okay, this great grant with Zito that they just got, that will be another one. That's another area that we won't touch. So this RFP that the county will put forth will essentially be take the county, subtract out RDOF, subtract out Zito, and we want somebody to do the rest of it.
And the great grant that Zito won, they have 2 years to do that.
Right, it's a 2-year project. Yes.
So we're going to see them roll that out in the next 2 years. The start time is now, correct?
Yes.
Right. And so another way to think about this, I have the paper, but I haven't read the cover story. Think about what else is positively impacted in Swain County when we have good broadband. Think about economic development. Think about tourism. Think about the ability to rent more cabins because they have internet, have more businesses be here because they have internet, especially remote businesses with good, high-paying jobs. They're here, they'll pay taxes, they'll contribute to our community, our schools, our committees, our commissioners, et cetera. Think about all the other things that are literally tangible assets and opportunities for well thought out growth for Swain County with that $200,000 investment to, as Leonard really aptly pointed out, fills in the rest of Swain County, or those places that are likely the hardest to provide broadband to, fiber broadband to, because the other grants will cover easier places. Everyone goes to the easy place first. One of those hardest places I might offer up is the Nantahala Gorge. We know that whitewater rafting provides, put Bryson City on the map and provides some of the highest tax dollars and benefits for tourism as a big draw for this county. So I just encourage you to think with a lens that's bigger than this particular budget item. I know it's a large number and the timing is now, but we do believe these funds will not come back to us because we will be off with the federal government on other crises. These are the COVID funds that are going to be available to us. Thank you for that opportunity to explain that. Let's keep going. There is another, to the next slide, please. The middle mile broadband infrastructure, they don't have a cute acronym on this. Basically, what this is, it's an additional pot of money, 980 million, it's huge, to fill in the broadband, the fiber that's in the middle between the end game, the businesses and the residents, and the major places that, where all the internet happens. And you've got a better name for that, Leonard, I'm sure. No? Mission control, we're gonna call it. This is apparently, it's a lot of money. There are so many requirements that there have been no applications so far that we know of. We would know of it because we would be partnering with and helping to support those applications. They get more points if they reach out to local broadband committees. That is actually due the end of this month. So we are not sure that anyone's gonna actually do that. The next slide. We'll just skip through this. There are other opportunities out there with programs and lots of pots of funds that we will stay on top of as your broadband committee and bring those to you as they come up. There is an ARC grant that is almost finished, Appalachian Regional Commission with Skywave, now Balsam West. We're just waiting on them to give us the paperwork so we can release the rest of those funds. Let's go to the next slide, please. We're almost done. You guys are doing great. Digital inclusion planning. This is actually really important. This is being spearheaded by, again, the North Carolina government. They want to bring all of our communities in the state up to speed with digital literacy and training. Rural areas like ours are often behind. And so there is an opportunity for us to put together a digital inclusion plan. There is a template. Southwest Commission is leading this. Our broadband committee and other community members like the library, healthcare, et cetera, are participating. We've already given them some ideas. They're going to create a plan to help Swain County. Things like digital literacy training. One idea we thought of was a mobile unit to help support people who can't get to the computer center to get their devices fixed or need additional support, especially good for seniors or folks who are on really limited income and don't have the ability to access resources that others do. So we're excited about that. A draft plan is supposedly going to be finished in November. They're fast tracking it. We will keep you apprised of that. Let's go to the next slide. We've already talked about this, but this is our big ask. This is for y'all to please consider $200,000 as a matching grant for the Completing Access to Broadband CAB program. The RFP is not available yet. We don't have the green light to create that RFP. We will let you know when we do, but please be thinking about that. It could be an incredible opportunity for Swain County. And let's see. Okay, we'll go to the next slide, and we'll stop there because the rest are appendices. You're welcome to look at those as you will. And please reach out with any questions to me or to Leonard or Jason. And we are more than happy to be available if you want an extra session discussing things, just call us. We're available to try to make this happen for the county. And we're very excited that Zito won that great grant, so we are looking forward to reasonably quick deployments on fiber to the home for at least some part of our county. Any questions?
I have one question. With the other two grants that's supposed to cover much of Swain County, and we're looking at a way to do the rest of the county, how much are those two compared in Swain County geographically as well as financially?
Oh, that is a great question. We have maps. We can show you those differences. I don't know that off the top of my head. Leonard might have a better idea. Is it half?
About half? Okay, thank you.
Oh, I wish it was smaller. Yeah, Yeah, and our county's pretty big, so. Plus if,
But part of our county is it's spread out and it's mountainous and the terrain is just, you just can't get to it from,
correct. The latest, though, is that fiber to the home is gonna go on electric poles, right? So most of the homes in our county have electricity. So we are feeling much more optimistic about the ability to deploy broadband as a result. We're not trying to dig lines underground, even though that would be optimal, not for where we live. If we can get electricity to homes, we can get fiber to homes.
okay.
I'm confident that Zito will do what they said they'd do, based on looking at their history, what they did in Graham County, how they developed this application, the work that went into the details of it. That still leaves about half the county. The CAB program may be our only resource to address that. Even though there's this middle mile program that, Julie mentioned it, and then there's a BEAD program to follow that. What I'm hearing from providers is that those programs have so much red tape and so many demands put on them in accounting and rules and application procedures and stuff like that, that they probably will not even apply. So our last chances to trough may be the CAB program that we asked you for the $200,000 for. And if we're able to do the rest of the county, then our only problem will be whether providers actually do what they contracted for. And Julie mentioned, we're very concerned about this RDOF contract that Charter got. Whether or not they will actually do what they have signed the contract saying they're going to do. I hope they will.
Do we have any avenues to pursue if we feel that they're not meeting their obligation?
No.
And that's why we were trying to talk to legislators to have them put in some kind of requirement. Other states in the United States do have those requirements. North Carolina does not. And it's a problem because 6 years from now is light years away in terms of development. And RDOF is a pretty large part of the county.
Do you know the legislators that would be most in our sights, even now, for this, so that we may be able to get a head start on that?
Senator
Or are you waiting?
I'm trying not to put my foot in my mouth too far.
Well,
I'm going to answer the question for you instead.
But I know that we're looking at November 8, which is going to determine some of that. But
The history of the politics on legislation to deal with these kind of problems is poor for us. The Time Warner Cable, these big companies have gotten what they want. And if we offered a legislative solution, I have no doubt that they have the political strength to stop it.
I see, okay.
And that's both parties. It's not one side or the other. They're in deep with both parties.
We did offer it. That's why we met with them in Franklin.
Yeah.
We had a special meeting with Senator Corbin, Representative Clampett, Representative Plus? Everybody who was there, and they said they would go to bat and they would try to help, but as Leonard said, the lobbying is just way too powerful right now.
And I think that that's one of the things, if we knew whom to go, it may help us, but it may not either, and I'm hearing what you're saying. But we need to be on our toes at this table in order to carry the weight of the county to Raleigh.
I think that's a really good point, because 6 years is a long time frame. We want to be watching what they're doing every year, and we want to be as vocal with our representatives as possible to try to impact charter actually deploying it, or, as is happening in other states, being able to say, hey, we're not going to do this, and we can award it to some other provider who will deploy for the county.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just to clarify, now, when charter doesn't do that, they do have to pay money back. Now, they can't just walk away with money. But they could run the timeout and not do the project, but the money would go back. They're not gonna make any money, but they do have the option because
They
of
would have
this.
to pay the money back to the FCC.
Right, but,
And there's a little penalty,
yeah,
not
yeah,
enough to make them do it.
not enough to make a difference.
Right.
Well, and if the money goes back, that doesn't do anything for Swain County either.
No, it doesn't mean it's gonna come back
Right.
by anybody else.
It's not a big enough hit for them to
I
cause
just want
them to walk
them
away,
to know
especially
that,
if they,
sure, yeah.
exactly, it's a really good point, Danny, because if they walk away from it, they pay back the award, but it's a tiny percentage of their total revenues, and the cost of deployment could be higher.
The reason I don't think that they're gonna do it, or not do a lot of it, they're getting $12.90 a house per month. And if that's all it costs to put fiber somewhere, we'd have done it a long time ago. You know, the customer, if we surveyed the county, we would get a lot of citizens who'd say, yeah, for $12.90 more than what it would cost somewhere else, fiber to the home, we'll jump at it. So I just don't see that being economically feasible for them to do that.
Right.
If it's helpful, we can come back, we can send to Cindy a map, a comprehensive map on one sheet that shows you the areas covered and then the gaps, if that would be helpful for you.
Will Zito release like a schedule when they start doing this, or will they just sporadically, you know how that kind of works? When they start,
They have to report,
Expanding.
don't they?
We can negotiate with them on that.
okay,
You know, actually, there has to be a contract. The contract, they've been awarded, but the contract's not been signed. And one of the things that we would want to put in the contract is regular reporting,
Right.
schedule,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
yeah,
That typically we've not been getting from other providers, and like Charter, I just checked with them earlier this week about the schedule for Swain County, and there's not one yet.
that's kind of what I was wondering, if we could kind of keep track, kind of push them a little bit maybe, or figure out how it's supposed to.
We're gonna be chasing their
We'll
vehicles.
We'll legislate our own.
We can push and get that from Zito, but we don't have any leverage to
Yeah.
get it from Charter.
We don't have any leverage, surprise, surprise.
I did have one question. So on your slide, it said the total maximum on the cab was 4 million, but would it be 4.6 million, or does the 4 million include the match both from the provider and the county? So it'd be 3.2 from the federal government.
I think we can get 4 million from the state. Well, it comes through the state, but it's federal money. But
Okay, well, the
state's
last slide,
administering.
I think the last slide just said a $4 million project, but
Right.
actually it would be a 4.6
Yeah, it'd be
million.
4.
You're right,
Right.
thank you for that
Okay.
clarification.
Yeah, all right.
That,
Just
that's
making
not
sure
correct.
everybody
It is a
understood.
$4.6 million project. Thank you, Kevin. Anything else?
Whoever's running that thing, thank you for backing that up.
Um,
No, we thank you very much. Do you have anything else before we dismiss you?
Can we get an okay now on that budget request?
We got to think on that one. Come on.
So, thank you very much. I know we showed up off the agenda, but we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is item number 4, public comments. And we have is it an Ella Pot?
I think that was Miss Ella. that was here with Curtis.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
She was with Cam.
She was with Curtis, the lady with Cam Price, I think, and she ended up saying.
Okay, so technically, we have no one for the, okay, moving on. Under items to discuss, we have the minutes of August the 11th and August the 25th, and I've been asked that we table those for this meeting, and we'll take them up next meeting.
I make a motion with table.
We have a motion on the
Minutes
floor
for-
to table those minutes. Do I have a second? I have a second on the floor. So we have a motion and a second on the floor to table those minutes until the next meeting. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Passed unanimous. Okay. B is support of restoring the name Kuohi, the resolution from Levita.
Good evening. My name is Levita Hill. I'm very honored to be here before you tonight. I had already provided information to Ben, which I think he's given out to you all. And just to talk about the project for just 1 minute, we began this project back in July. And then Tribal Council gave their support. And so now here I am just knocking on all doors in the area to get support for this. It is very important, very, I'm emotional about it, but I love the idea of what we are potentially giving back to our ancestors. And yeah, they're not going to know it, but our future generations are going to know it, and they're just going to be so proud of us. So thank you for even considering this, but I do hope that you will approve and offer your support to the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians so that we can go before the U.S. Board on Geographic Names to have the name Kuohi given back to the mountain, which is presently called Clingman's Dome. Do you
Okay.
guys have any questions?
I did, Smoky Mountain News did a good article on that, had a good, the history and so forth, so.
Yes, I am been pretty grateful for the media and for all of those that have reached out, because it is an interesting topic, but all of them want to know, like, why are you doing this? What is the history behind it? And so I definitely feel like it is an excellent educational opportunity, just to say, you know, our people as Eastern or as Cherokee Indians, you know, we're amazing. And there's trauma and there's been tragedy, but to stand here today and say, let's do something to honor those before us, it's just incredible. And I'm so happy to talk about what we have overcame. And I'm just...
Any other questions or anything else for Levita? If not, we have the motion before us tonight to join or support the tribe on the renaming of the Clingman's Dome back to its original name. And I think that's the important part to emphasize, is that we're going back to the original name. We're not changing anything. We're just going back to the original name. And we have an opportunity, meaning Native American people have an opportunity to do this because we have the first Secretary of Interior who is Native American. And she's making some good and drastic changes. And I hope people don't panic with that. Just that we're just putting things back in order. Any questions? Hearing none. You have the resolution before you to support the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians as they petition the federal government to restore the name. So I will accept a motion to endorse this resolution, or whatever is your pleasure.
I'll make a motion to support the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to support the resolution. Do I have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to support the resolution. Any other discussion? If not, those in support, please raise your right hand. Passed unanimously.
Ski, thank you.
Okay. C is the property exchange resolution that comes to us, and I'm assuming, Kevin, that you will talk to that a little bit.
So at our event park, there was a piece of property that was kind of segmented off of the main track. And so what we want to do is do an exchange. I'm trying to see with Carbro Properties Incorporated, which owns the other part of the property. And so we want to do an equal exchange. It's the same amount of property. We're just switching the bottom part for the top part and vice versa. So that's pretty much what the exchange is. It's just getting a better piece of property where we can put the parking up at the top of the hill instead of at the bottom. So, and we went through all the proper procedures as far as publication. I think it's been in there a while now.
Okay, you have the resolution in front of you, and do I hear any questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution 900-2022-13. Do I have the motion?
Make a motion, we.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to
Exchange.
adopt this resolution.
Second.
And we have a second on the floor to adopt the resolution. All of those in favor, please show your right hand. Passed unanimously. Okay, the lease agreement renewal. Mr. King?
Correct. We've been leasing a piece of property on Main Street. Actually, it's on Everett Street, intersection of Everett and Main, for 10 years now, and the lease is up for an additional term. The leasee, Ron LaRock, has reached out to us asking for an additional 10-year period. So we went through the proper procedures as far as the legal aspect of that and publicized it consistent with the state of North Carolina laws. And so this is a resolution basically renewing his lease for an additional 10-year term.
Okay, and it adds or change nothing.
As it stands, no changes.
Okay. Any questions? If not, Commissioners, I will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution. Do I have it?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second on the floor for the adoption of this resolution, authorizing renewal of lease term. Open for questions. Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Passed unanimously. Next on the agenda is the Hope Springs Eternal Request for Funds. You want to?
Yeah, at the last meeting, y'all heard from a group of folks representing Hope Springs, and they're requesting $500 for a rally that's going to be held later this month. And so at this point, I think it's just up for discussion, and if you want to grant that request, it'll be on a budget amendment, but we can go ahead and take care of it if that's your pleasure of the board. So at this point,
What is the pleasure of the board? They're asking for 500, as I
Yes,
understand it.
I know, they're a nonprofit, and I made clear that, somebody said something about we don't wanna, we gotta be careful if we're funding church functions, but this isn't a church, it is a nonprofit, which is associated with churches, no different than the Restoration House that we
Right.
help with and different things. My other question to Kevin, is there any way that money could come from the money we received from the opioid settlement? Because it would seem, it would fall into those parameters.
Right, it doesn't fall under the parameters of that funding yet. And you have to have a plan. We're not able to.
You can't just take any of it until you have an okay, I just want to make sure, see if it could come from that plan, but,
Yeah, it's, after listening to them, that they're kind of a halfway house to take people that have been addicted and kind of give them a segue back into society. And I don't think they have actual counseling services there. I think they work with other providers, during that process. So it would be hard to even with opioid, because that's made for counseling services.
more for counseling.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that. I wasn't sure. I figured that had to have a pretty extensive plan to use that, but.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, I guess I have a question. This is a faith-based organization. Does it open the doors for us to be approached by other faith-based organizations within the county to take taxpayer funds and give to faith-based organizations?
If they have a halfway house or any sort of public service, most definitely.
I'm sorry. Now, it's my understanding that this is just for the information rally. It's not for their services.
Correct.
So their information rally is going to be out somewhere, and what they're hoping is to have the children, people who either are having problems or anything else, just to come in and have a respite day. That's what I was told. Now, I can understand that and I can see that, but the question becomes for me, if it is going to be on a rolling year after year kind of thing, or where will they get the money to fund this in the future? And I'm looking at you, Danny. I'm not talking to you, but I'm looking at you.
I have no doubt. He said most of their, I guess 95% of their funding comes through churches.
Okay, so theoretically, the answer to that would be from the churches if they need to do that.
Yeah, if they get it, or if they do it again.
Okay.
My only thing was, I know we have, to me, if they're a nonprofit, even though they're faith-based, they're no different than the Restoration House, and we have given funds to the Restoration House in the past.
I'll have to look that. I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember they came and asked, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago, yes, I remember that now that you mentioned it.
I'm pretty confident, Cindy could look that up, I'm pretty confident we have given to the Restoration House some
A
funding.
lot of our nonprofits are spun off faith-based churches. I mean, pretty much all of them are. I did attend one of their meetings, this rally meeting, just because I wanted to kind of know firsthand exactly what they were going to do. And it's kind of more of a regional thing. They're pulling providers in from different places. I think BioHealth, different places have committed to this rally. So my question is, I mean, even if we did, can we earmark this money to the rally and not just to Hope Springs?
To their general fund,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we can do that. We
I
can
mean,
say
because
that-
it's a drug rally in our county. It's a hope, trying to figure out how to stop the opioid crisis.
Sure. I did ask, just FYI, guys, I did ask if they had anyone from Swain County in their programs, and the answer was no. But this is a community-wide event,
Yes.
so if anybody needs answers or seeking answers to, or resources, this would be where they would go. That was my understanding of it.
I've got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Do we not have programs and already have places for people to go to get some of this information now? And I mean, is there help out there besides this rally, having to get it together for them? Because I'm pretty sure there's lots of
I think this-
avenues to get help.
I think this rally's just trying to pull this in. It's kind of like putting everything in one basket. So if you come to this event, you're gonna see all these providers. Now you know, oh, I got this problem, I can go here. I got this problem, I can go here, that you might not know of.
Which we've been trying to make for the last several years. I think Ben started wanting us to do
Family Resource Centers.
at the Family Resource Center,
Volunteer Center.
a list of all this same stuff.
They do that, yes.
And that we provide them a way to go to this. I had issue with the Hope Springs stuff because, number one, I asked them how many people in the community gets to go through their doors. They said pretty much none, that they remove people from other communities and bring them here. And you know, we were talking about other issues. One issue we were talking about that same meeting was housing, and I mean, it's sort of odd to me how you're bringing more people in here. If we got housing issues for other stuff, but you're doing this to bring more people in here and put them back in this society too, in this community. We've got other issues facing us too. That was some of my issues when they asked us for the $500. I think we already provide some of this information. I don't think they'd have a problem getting it. I think it's sort of like the library asking us for money, for certain amounts of money and stuff. Well, you got some people say no, some people say this. We tell them, well, go out there and work and get your $500, which $500 for this is a lot less than what the library was asking for. But with that said, it's hard to start picking and choosing. I'm starting to turn. I know we've gave nonprofits and charities in the past, and we do have funds for this. Aren't there funds set aside? But I also know it's hard for me to sit here and dictate what we pick and choose that the community can donate their money to if they want to. That's something I have a hard time with. And I know I voted for stuff in the past. I'm not gonna act like I haven't, because I have. But it's hard to say, well, I'm gonna take taxpayer money and give it to this. And then you just about have to do that for anybody who comes. And I think that's some of what Roger was looking at. But I know it's a rally to try to get the information though.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that if y'all allocated the 500, we could take it out of the fund balance for family support, family preservation, which kind of dovetails on what you were saying about programs. That is the conduit for information. When people have an issue, we've tried to develop that continuum of care with all the nonprofits in the community and have a one-place shop for people in distress, along with DSS. It's kind of a combination between the two. So I think there's a way, you know, to do that's going to actually put it back on the FRC if you'd like to, because we do have a fund balance over there out of that fund. So if you choose to do the 500, we can do it from that program, and then that kind of plugs that nonprofit back in as far as the community resource, which we are trying to get done. We have community resource meetings at least once a quarter, which all of them get together, and there's a bunch of them. And so I think as far as sharing information, I think that'd be the best way to kind of plug them back in to make sure that they understand it came from the county, but it also come from the Family Resource Center.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
And that's the directory. That's what you was trying to set up, a resource directory.
Right.
And we was trying to get all the nonprofit organizations together. How are we even on that? Do we have that? And we was trying to see what overlapped what, and
We have a website. There's a website up, and basically you'll have all your programs over here, or all your nonprofits and the programs that they do, and you list what everybody does, and basically you kind of identify what we don't have. It's making a map. It's a resource mapping, which we have.
Well, and I think that part of what you're talking about, or I'll put word in your mouth, part of what's going on here is we've asked Melissa to work with people who want to volunteer for the county and set that up too, so.
Yeah.
And I believe during their meetings at the Family Resource Center, they're still having roundtables. with these different providers, and if a new provider comes up or a new nonprofit or something like that, they come and kind of give their spiel of what they can offer. So tying this back into FRC would be great, because this also would not just give the rally, information. It actually would take the people that need that information and they can get plugged into the Family Resource Center and continue that information, maybe find different places. So, good.
I think you'd have people that probably would attend that don't have access to computers and
True, yeah.
can get some information that they, would be a little harder for them to get, or don't go to the desk, or don't go to, for whatever reason, I don't know.
Yeah,
It could be good information out there.
Well, and in my conversation with Isaac, I think that's his name, he was telling me that one of the things that they wanted to do was to bring in the kids, little kids. They were gonna have the bouncy houses and that kind of stuff for the kids, and I thought that was great, because that takes them out of their present situation and gives them a respite, a peace of mind for at least a little while. So, I was just thinking that would be well worth it as well. Anything else?
Well, I support what they do. I believe I spoke to you, Mr. Chairman, a week or so ago. I support what they do, and I have made a commitment myself that I will probably make a donation to them personally for what they do. But I still have some issue with taking taxpayer money given to a faith-based organization who is not actually helping Swain County citizens. So I still just have a little issue with that, but that's kind of my separation of church and state as well, that I believe strongly in. So that's not necessarily a popular opinion around here a lot, but it's the way I feel about it as well.
Well, but I think it's an opinion that needs to be stated, and I think one of the things that we need to do is, I'm not asking every commissioner to step up, but I'm simply saying that, yes, if we can raise the money, what money we can raise will be deducted from the 500. But I like the idea of them having to work with the Family Resource Center. I like that. And that's basically what we're doing. We set up a program and then we tend to forget about it sometimes. So this would just tie us back into that, as Danny was saying, that's where the money's coming from. It's not coming from well, it is, but, from the commissioners, it's coming from the Family Resource Center who's working with them.
I've visited Hope Springs facility numerous times as well. And I know the thing about, they don't house people that per se are from Swain County, but there is a reason for that. And I think he kind of mentioned it the other day, and there is a reason. If I was an addict and I went here to get help and I stayed in my own environment, the same environment that I was in when I was an addict, and I was trying to get through that, there's a big probability that I'm going to fall right back into where I was at. And that's why you see people go to other states, other counties.
I've worked in that field for about 10 years, and my philosophy is totally opposite. If you can't work with someone within their community and work with their family and work with the people that want to keep them sober, then they just go back into it cold. They don't go into it in a gradual process and have the people on the outside helping them. So I have a totally different perspective on it. That's just mine. Okay, issue is on the table. What do you want to do with it? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion now that we support it through the Family Resource Center.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, on the table, to provide this money, but provide it through the, no, you're talking about the 500. Okay. Providing the 500 through the Family Resource Center so that they can build that relationship with them.
And it's with the understanding that the money is not given to Hope Springs, it's given to the rally.
It's earmarked to that.
Right.
To put the rally on, which is a community event.
Yeah.
even though they're kind of spearheading it. So I think that would be, take away a little bit of the argument that we're funding Hope Springs.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Excuse me,
Sir, go
is
ahead.
this with the stipulation too, that what we can't raise? A while ago, you said what we can raise, we'll raise, and the rest of it can come out of
The
that?
motion says the 500.
Just the whole thing?
So we're not
I'm
back to
not gonna
that.
say that.
Okay, you have a motion and a second on the floor that the $500 requested by the Hope Springs, I always want to say Hope Springs Eternal. I don't know what the name is, but anyway. Hope Springs through the Family Resource Center so that they build a relationship. Is that the motion? Am I adding to it, or is that pretty much it? Okay, that's a motion and a second on the floor. All of those in favor of that particular motion, please raise your right hand. Okay. Those opposed, do likewise. Okay, 2. So we have 3 going with the motion to work with Family Resource Center to assist this event, and 2 opposed. Moving on down the agenda. County Manager's report.
So I'd sent y'all an email, so we were awarded a couple of grants. The first one is through the Dogwood Health Trust for $1.5 million. It's for the ELA sewer project, and this is the lift station between Hot Creek Road and Whittier. After notification, I did reach back out to the people or the organizations that we needed, to get authority from, which is the right-of-way with the railroad, which is still in play, and also Texas City Water and Sewer. Reached back out to them. They're gonna meet next Tuesday to kind of bring that up to their board of directors. And so I think everything at this point is still moving forward. Reached out to a couple other folks to get that last dollar amount, because there is a $700,000 variance between the total project and this 1.5 million. And so we're working with other, hopefully, funders to take care of that. And want to go ahead and try to proceed just with the preliminary engineering study, which we have just a scope of work, but we will need to get kind of some final details in there. Shouldn't be too much money to do that, so we're probably going to go ahead and get that piece of it done and wait on the other funding part. And we'll talk more about that probably at the work session after the meeting with Teresa on the 14th. The other grant was awarded, which is the Part F, or Parks Recreation Trust Fund, in the amount of $500,000. I did reach back out to the Tourism Development Authority. They have matched that 100%. So they have also put in a $500,000, or committed to it over the 3-year period. And with that said, we've got 3 years to put this together. The first year, we're doing the slide component, which hopefully that'll be ready by springtime. And then we'll have to have some conversation during the budget process about the revamping of the bathrooms and the administrative area. So that'll be a part of our budget process. And then the Lazy River is the other component of the Part F, which will be put in probably in 2024. So. The library modifications, we budgeted $500,000 for the wall. Reached out to the engineer that Keith Hargrove had worked with, which is the architect the library had to draw up the renderings. So the engineer is currently drawing the plans for the construction, and we're going to see how much in-depth work there is. If it gets a little bit too in-depth, we might have to contract that out, but at this point, we're scheduled to continue with our county staff doing that wall project. And at this point, depending upon, like I say, the engineering work that's coming out of it. They have done, or about they're probably 80% done with the wall out at the senior center. I invite y'all to go by and look at it. This is the wall to kind of get the right-of-way released by the charter school where their gymnasium is. So we had to widen the road in that one part, and so with that came a retaining wall, and it's looking pretty good. This rain has delayed the ending of that project, so but you can look at it and kind of see what it's going to look like. It looks great. So if the wall is anything like that at the library, I don't think we'll have too much of a problem. There was a new opportunity came up, and it's kind of a little bit of a tight timeline because it's a community development block grant, which we used to do back in 2010, and this is for housing rehabilitation with senior citizens and disabled folks, and so this is more of a single family rehab project and not a total restoration. I mean, we've done both. We've bought mobile homes for folks and tore down their buildings and placed them there before. But what I was thinking of is more of the hey, my water heater's out, or my well went dry, or whatever, and kind of working with those folks to do replacements. And so with that, there's a lot of criteria, and we might have to depend upon what we can find if y'all choose to do this. We would have to do some paperwork before the grant's put in. You'd have to have a house selection committee. Basically, people would apply for these funds or for help, and then you'd have to have a committee that has a bylaws to kind of be the ones to pick the people that would get the assistance. So there's a little bit of back work we're going to have to do. But anyway, it's a tight timeline. It's September 30th, and it's September the 8th. It can be done. We've done these projects before. We've still got the checkbook open, so everything's, as far as us doing it, we've got the accessibility to do it. I just need to know kind of some direction. Do we want to do it?
If we do this, do we have the bylaws from past housing committees?
We are trying to look at those. That project was done by Southwestern Commission, and at that time, I don't think that the community development block folks required a set of bylaws for your selection committee. I think just the county or the supervisor of the CDBG project picked people in different positions within the county and also the public to sit on that committee. We can't find where any of it was ever approved, like in a commissioner meeting. And so back then, though, we contracted it out with Southwestern Commission as far as being the third-party administrator over the grant. And so it's a little bit different. This time, we would actually hire somebody internally to do the project.
How does this play into and affect the work of the housing committee?
It really, all it's going to do, hopefully, is identify folks that need assistance. This is an assistance program, mostly for the elderly and disabled. And, it will do, I think that there was a grant through the Restoration House, through the Nantahala Health Foundation, for like $70,000. This one would be $1 million. So it's significantly a lot more money and a longer time period. I think it's a 3-year period. And so then we could help a lot more people. And you can choose whether to do like single family rehabs or basically just go in and say, this house not worth saving, let's bulldoze this down and get you a mobile home, or maybe possibly even a stick-built home. But it just depends on the funding. So you want to do, with these projects, you want to identify, so if you do a total rebuild of 5 homes or whatever, that would probably be a mobile home situation, because by the time you do wells and septic and a mobile home, it's going to be on $1 million. It's not going to go too far.
Yeah.
So you might want to, it just depends on how you want the application done. If you want to just help people, put in new water heaters, new roofs, new siding, whatever.
What do you need from us as a board?
I just need to know if you want me to explore it any further, or if you want to, we'll just wait till the next grant cycle, which will probably be next year. So that's kind of where I was going with it.
Commissioners, you've heard what he needs from us. What's your pleasure?
I believe we're pretty rushed on this one. I believe it's a little late in the game. That's my opinion.
Okay. Anybody else have an opinion?
It's an opportunity, $1 million to help people. Even if it's rushed, you take a chance. If you don't get it, you're not lost anything. If you do get it, what's the time frame once you get it that you have to start implementing it?
Within 2 years. So you have about 6 months before they even get
The only rush right now is just getting an application in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything, I don't have a problem with going ahead and applying for an application, my take, because it's
Okay.
kind of free money. There's no matching, no, nothing.
Okay, we've got a request or a thought that we go after the money. We have a thought that we may be running too late in this whole thing, so.
It seems rushed, but I think if we can get it, go for it. You know, I don't like to turn down free grant money or free monies, especially if we can help people in our community.
But nothing's never really free. This ain't free. This is grant money. I know we apply for grants for everything. At some point in time, we've got to quit relying on them.
Yeah.
And this one is a grant that has caused issues in the past, I believe, on who some people had houses built for them out of this, didn't they, Mr. King?
We did back in the 90s. Yeah, and there was an issue. So it's a needed program, and everything, you know, is, especially when you're dealing with the county, can be looked at as a possible, you know, lawsuit if you just got to make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's with these projects, and make sure you don't, you know, tear somebody's house down without permission and documentation.
Okay, so you feel that we're sophisticated enough to handle all of those issues?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I think we ought to apply for it, see what it looks like. If we get it, then we can, I mean, it sounds like it's more structured than it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Could I just ask to explore that just a little bit about what was I was unaware of the issues. So did it seem as if the commissioners or the money was going to favorites, or, I mean, was there an issue?
No. So.
I mean, if we see that let's look, but not repeat any mistakes of the past.
No, we definitely won't. So I guess there's been a couple different, and as long as we stick with like a single family rehab instead of like tearing down a whole structure, you may not have as much of an issue. But we did have a lawsuit that was settled out of court in the 90s, line 98, I think, somewhere in there. And it was because of a prior supervisor that was over the program did not file the correct paperwork. And at the time, we weren't contracted with Southwestern Commission. We had actually tried to do it, or did it ourselves. Now Southwestern Commission is out of the game, so they're kind of out of the picture, because they've seen, there is a lot of paperwork. You got to have somebody, point person, and we're going to have that point person. And the grant will pay for the point person. It's just a needed, in my opinion, and my recommendation, it's definitely needed. I think this last exercise that we did this past summer with the restoration house shown that it's definitely a needed program. And Graham County, I think, got this same grant a year or 2 years ago. They have one asset on their board that one of their board members used to do the projects. Actually, he did ours. Dale Wiggins used to be our consultant. So he's done these projects before, and so I'm sure he was the catalyst in trying to get that CDBG grant for them. But I think I think we do definitely have the capacity, or can get the capacity to do it.
Okay.
I know, Foursquare did that at one time, come in and rework people's house, could it be in conjunction with them or let them handle the funding?
They-
That
We
would be a-
still do that.
Yeah, that would be if we could, I mean, they're in the business of doing that, so I mean, if we
I told
could
you, it
work
might
out
be
some
good
sort of
to get the
arrangement,
money
that'd be
and
perfect.
just let them handle all the red tape part.
Yeah.
It would
Then-
alleviate the
And then-
county from any obligation.
The headache,
Yeah.
give them the headaches and we'll
Yeah,
just,
when it was with Southwestern Commission, they would do all the grant administration and we'd do all the physical management. And so that's why we're set up for the physical management piece easy,
right.
so.
Well, that's not a bad idea. I think we go ahead and apply for the grant. And then if we get it, bring it back, and then we go into this whole thing of who will be the, program manager. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, who supplies the manpower for doing the actual work?
What it is, you put it, they're bids that go out.
Contract.
So they have to bid off each one. This goes by federal guidelines and not state. So I mean, even if it's $500, it's bidded off in the paper. So it's a little bit different. There's a little bit more, that's the red tape.
Right.
piece.
Right.
Well, but that kind of raises a question for me. If we can't get anybody to do anything now, how in the heck are we
Yeah.
gonna get them to do?
And that may be a barrier. And we would have to give back some money, but at least the
But at least
community
we
would know
try.
we're trying.
Yeah. Okay, commissioners, you've heard the discussions before, by and for, against and for. So what's your pleasure? I'll entertain a motion to approve the grant, or I'll entertain a motion to not move forward on the grant.
I make a motion, we go ahead and try to go for the grant.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to apply for the grant. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to go ahead and apply for the grant. And that's the motion on the floor. I won't add my 2 cents. You have the motion before you that we move ahead, that we give our manager direction to go ahead and go after this grant that's due on the 30th, did you say?
It's due the 30th.
Okay. And all of those in favor of that, please raise your right hand. Okay, we got 4, and those opposed likewise, and 4-1 in approving.
And then, other informational items. We are trying to get a quote for a steel building for the animal control, building. And, on the next budget amendment, there will be the scholarship program we had talked about.
Right.
So, the funding for that. The 2 direct grants, we're moving forward with the project. Some of the costs have gone up on, the spray installation for the indoor rec facility. So we're re-quoting that. We're gonna get 3 or 4 more vendors to come out. It kinda got really expensive all of a sudden, so.
Just off the top of your head, how much did it go up?
It went from 95 to 126.
Oh, wow.
1,000. And that kind of eat into the HVAC. And at the end of the day, we might just end up having to put in insulation and then wait on HVAC because you got to have insulation.
That's true.
So, and then the other one is being delayed, and I was going to just kind of segue this into my next topic at the event part. They're wanting to have an event between November 1st and January 3rd. So actually it's going to be that entire length, and it's going to be Shadrach Christmas celebration lots. The TDA is wanting to sponsor that. And so with that sponsorship, they're really looking for a buy-in from the community. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Shadrach before. Anybody seen that before? They used to have it over at the Asheville Civic, not Asheville Civic, Asheville, the Ag Center. And basically you pay by the car. It's a drive-through light show. And it's like $20 a car, I believe. And so what they're wanting to do is work with nonprofit organizations to kind of have the manpower there. And basically everything that's brought in is the nonprofits. They won't keep any of it, they just wanna sponsor the show. Let them have the manpower, there to kind of work through. So there's a good opportunity to give back to the community through that process. And that's coming from them. But anyway, November 1st through the 3rd is tentatively, what they're looking at. And, so that kind of delays some of the second direct grant project, which was slated for the first part of October. They were going to start the paving or the graveling. So now we're going to just push that out to January. Hopefully we'll start that in January and just get it done in that next spring. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. The final thing I had is Ben's got a copy of a letter that we drafted, and it's just outlining we had a meeting on the 5th of August with the tribe and DOT at the Whittier site, the Whittier housing site. And basically the tribe just wanted us to kind of outline what our perceptions were at that meeting or the steps involved in the abandonment process of a road. So Whittier has a loop road that used to be serviced, that used to service the Whittier school. Now it's just there. And so they want to abandon the top part of the loop and put in a 2-lane road at the bottom loop, so that the people that have the private residence, if they would have a 2-lane access road, and then the tribe would do their project closer in that neighborhood. And so this basically just outlines, just saying that we're supportive of the tribe moving forward this project if DOT can be satisfied with their steps. And we outlined the steps in the letter also that they would have to go through. One, of course, is coming before y'all with a petition or a signature page of the tribe, and then y'all have a resolution at that time to vote for or against. But at this point, I think all parties are being satisfied. They'll have, the residents will have adequate ingress and egress. So I think there's no issues or red flags at this point. And so I would recommend, sending this letter if you want my opinion. And that's it. That's all I've got.
Okay. I want to act on that letter, so I want to bring it back up and get some action on it tonight. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, so you can talk to the property owners, adjoining property owners, and they
Currently,
love the idea of this for sure too.
DOT has been engaged with them, and also Caddo has been engaged with them. We didn't personally go down there and talk to any of them, but they're getting, instead of a 1-lane road, they're getting a brand new state 2-lane road instead of 1 lane.
That's the only difference there. Instead of the 1-lane road that goes, they're getting 2 lanes.
They're getting a 2-lane, so they'll have, right now they're having to pass each other on a 1-lane road because
Right.
hardly any of them use the loop. They come in that one entrance at the bottom. And so this will put that 2-lane road at the bottom, and I think a cul-de-sac at the end of it,
Right.
from my understanding.
That was my recollection as
Yeah.
well.
But the state said that there wasn't no issues with all that. Everybody,
No, there's no issues as long as they follow the steps, which, I did speak with Bungie this morning.
Okay, good.
And he said that they've already started their planning, and so they're drawing up a plan, gonna submit that to DOT, and then kind of working these steps here. So.
Yes. Questions? Any other questions?
I'd like to at least know what the people said before I vote on this, because I definitely want to make sure, I understand they're widening the road. Is it all on Qualis side, or is it some of it to local people's side? Is it?
No, it's all on the Qualis side.
It's all on
Qualis
Qualis.
side.
There's no, they're reestablishing the center line of that road to be the shoulder of the current 1 lane. So the right-hand shoulder of the 1 lane, so it's all coming from the Qualis side.
It's all coming from even the cul-de-sac up at the top?
Right.
Because I don't see how that could be if,
The cul-de-sac, the 2-lane road for the residences comes in and goes out the same
For the
way.
residents on the tribe's
That's where the
land.
cul-de-sac is going to be at the end of that, so if someone comes in and needs to turn around and come back out, they would have a way to do that, a space to do that. DOT said that they don't have a problem with it, but you cannot take away something that people already have. They have the ingress and egress, they have that.
Right,
So the road then, that's down at the bottom of the loop, would have to be ingress as well as that, egress, so that they don't run into each other, you know, so.
right, and part of this steps they got to do is about getting
Yeah.
signatures from the people there and about them giving up
Yeah,
their
they
right
have
of
to.
way
Well,
that
they
they
do
actually
that.
have.
Right, so all this letter's saying is that you support the tribe in this process. They still have to go through the process. It doesn't give up your right to how you vote on the resolution that they're gonna present to you as far as the abandonment process that y'all do. This is just supportive of this moving forward.
Right,
At this
this
point.
moves us and the tribe forward on this project, that's all it does. Other questions? Did we answer that, or you still got a question?
I'm gonna read the letter. I want to do that. Then I'll see if I have any more.
We didn't give it to you before?
No, we just got it.
Okay, that's on me, guys.
I mean, as long as the residents aren't getting, I mean, if they agree for it, then that's, I don't want them to be pushed out of the
All the
conversation.
residents agreed to it, just verbally, except for one. And he was the one that stated he wanted the egress and ingress on the same street so that they wouldn't hit each other trying to get in and out. This takes care of that.
All right, that answers my questions.
You have the letter in front of you. If you feel that you've had enough time, we can bring it. Well, no, we can't really.
Whichever.
We need to get it out. That's my fault.
Yeah, it's not really, I mean, this is not really an action item. You're not because they've not asked you for anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're just saying, this is what we understand from the meeting,
Yeah.
you know, and I know y'all weren't now, but Ben and I were there, and I've kind of outlined it, basically what happened at the meeting. We just didn't want you to be, you know, if we've sent this letter just stating what happened at the meeting, and at this point, if you follow these guidelines, you know,
It's a step process.
it's a step process,
Yeah.
basically. They just need, I think they needed something for
Just in,
tribal finance, I believe, to do
yeah,
that.
the
Bobby
finance,
Road.
tribal finance is the one that needed something to outline saying that, yeah, that's the way it was, and yeah, we will cheer them on.
Yeah.
So, okay, and if you, in the next couple of days, if you come up with any questions on this, call me or call Kevin and we'll answer those questions for you. All right?
All right.
Okay. Did you say that was it?
That's all I got.
Okay. Mr. Burns?
Just trying to think, I don't think I've had anything since our last meeting. We've got some trainings, they're scheduling some training, trying to figure out some dates for the library committee on their fundraising and so forth, but that's yet to be determined. I don't think I've had a meeting since the last meeting.
Okay.
I don't think I have either. I just think the same thing. I don't think I've done anything, so.
I feel like you haven't done anything, right? Okay, now here's the way report's supposed to go.
Well, I haven't had much of anything either, Mr. Chairman. I have made a trip out to Head Start to sign some papers for Foursquare, and that's about the length of anything I've done outside. I did make a trip up I had not been to Whittier, to Schoolhouse Hill there in a long time, and when I drove up there, I was kind of amazed at all the housing and what used to be the fields, the ball fields, and I was also amazed at how much smaller that lot looked of the
Yeah,
school.
right. Right.
In my memory as a kid going to Whittier Elementary, that seemed like a big building and a big place, but when you go up there now, it's like, it's funny how much smaller things are in adulthood than they were in that childhood in my memory, so, but the
Well,
school
I
is not there anymore, there, you know, it's
I
just that
remember
lot.
the gym. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
remember,
Right, exactly, so, so I did that, but, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman. I have not had any attended to me outside or any outside meetings
okay.
since our last meeting.
I have
Sir?
none.
I didn't think you did. Okay, and my report includes all of this stuff. We also had a meeting, the Secretary of State came here, and I wanted to tell the guys, I appreciate you guys being there and listening to what she had to say. I thought it was a good meeting, and we from Swain County have a gentleman, help me out here, what's his name? He's a Swain County kid, he grew up here, and he's the assistant to the
Maddox.
Rodney Maddox, yes, thank you very much. He's the top aide to the Secretary of State, so he helped us get her here for a meeting, and she made it, and I was very pleased with that. Also, I know Kevin was there, and I think you went there a little later, the fair, the ag fair. We got there, and we need to talk to people about the agenda items, because they were having the opening ceremony and prayer and stuff at noon. I was there since 9:30, so, and you were too. So we gotta get that put back in the right place somewhere along the way. So we had that, and it was fun and it was interesting. It's always fun to watch the kids show their animals and show other stuff that they've done, and I just find it very fascinating. And one of the things that I've said, and several other people have verified it, is that last year was the inaugural year that we did it up there, and this year almost doubled in attendance as well as participants, and it was really, really great to see. And so we had that, and it was very good.
People really love the pavilion or the
Yes.
building. Everybody I talked to was like, this is nice.
Okay, so that will be my report for the evening. Anything on new business? Does anyone have anything they want to bring up as new business? Hearing none, we'll go on down the agenda, and we don't have a closed session tonight, so that's done. So guess what, gentlemen? Somebody want to give me a motion to
I
adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I second.
Okay, a motion second on the floor to adjourn. All those in favor, raise your right hand, please. Okay, carried unanimously.